sun was melting into the ocean, and the horizon was a burst of blooming colors. Sasha watched, sitting cross-legged on the sand. The sand coated her thighs like sugary donuts. She didn't mind the sand. It was warm and comforting. Her cut-off shorts provided protection from the grains that were trying to get to places they weren't invited. She wore a see-through blouse that exposed her bikini top with the matching bottom peeking out from her shorts, vying for attention. This was the most comfortable she'd felt since the breakup. Her friends were still in the water. She wondered if she should join them, but there was no point. Once it became dark, everyone would aim for the next venue. For now, it was just her and the sunset. "What are you thinking?" Gabriel's voice came from behind her, uninvited to her quiet communion with nature. He sat beside her, breaking her solitude. "Nothing. Are we ready to go?" Sasha asked, as if she were ready to begin the exodus. "Come on, where are you rushing to?" Gabriel grabbed her arm, preventing her from getting up. "The sun's still up." Ah, yes, her sun. The very thing this man was now distracting her from. She settled back into the sand, her butt returning to the mold she had left before. "I'm just waiting for everyone to finish so we can go," she lied. "When are you leaving?" Gabriel looked at her the way a child might look at a new toy, excitement and impatience shining in his eyes. "Why do you ask? Are you planning to follow me?" Sasha tried to ignore the slyness and suggestion in his tone. "No, it's getting dark." "I could offer you a ride if you'd like." He popped a set of keys from his palm, the key ring dangling from one of his fingers. "Oh, thanks, but I came with V." Sasha pointed to Vera like a religious devotee reaching for their savior. Vera couldn't care less about what Sasha had going on. She was having too much fun in the water with the others. Stanley and Patricia looked like they were trying to drown each other with splashes, with the waves playing along like a fourth participant in their game. Sasha and Gabriel shared an awkward silence, but Gabriel was already preparing to fire again. "Vera told me what happened to you." The smile on his face inverted. He looked at her almost apologetically. "What?" Sasha acted surprised, but she wasn't really surprised. Vera did have a big mouth. If there was anything in this world to spill, whether it be tea, beans, or secrets, Vera would. "I lost my mother last year," Gabriel said, a hint of pain in his voice, as if someone had touched a wound. Sasha thought to herself, how does this compare to what I'm dealing with? And as if reading her mind, he answered, "I know it's not the same thing, but it's hard to lose someone. Sometimes you just have to move on." Gabriel said this with a straight face. She wondered who he was telling to move on, and if he thought she needed his permission. "Sorry about your mom." Sasha delivered her sympathy like an email, sent but unsure if it was received. Fires began to replace the sunlight as the beach caretakers lit torches in the wind. A line of torches dotted the beachfront. Like candles on a birthday cake, it seemed the sea was trying to make a wish, somehow unsuccessfully. Sasha could feel the warmth of the fires. It made her want to sink into the sand and dwell in an abyss of silence. "I heard you paint." "Oh, right." Gabriel was still there. Before she could answer, Gabriel turned to her, flexing his muscles. "Do you think you could draw me?" He added a cheeky smile to his pose. For the first time, she noticed his impressive physique. His broad shoulders and well-defined six-pack looked like the work of skilled bricklayers, stacked to perfection. She laughed, much to Gabriel's satisfaction, who relaxed from his pose. "I quit painting a long time ago," Sasha conceded. "Why?" That inverted smile returned to Gabriel's face. "I have a job," she answered somewhat defensively. "That doesn't stop you from having hobbies." What is this man talking about, Sasha wondered. Hobbies were for people with disposable incomes, and for her, painting had become disposable instead. Vera was still in the water, laughing and making noise. It was already dark. At the moment she needed rescue, Vera wasn't paying any attention to her. There was no way to signal her, and it seemed several more people had joined their little game. Sasha thought to herself, maybe I should have a little fun too. Here was this masculine package of delight sitting next to her. What could possibly go wrong? "Do you have hobbies?" she asked, leaning back and presenting herself as flatteringly as possible. "I like dancing," Gabriel replied, joining her in her reclined position, resting his arm close enough to support her head. "What about you? Do you like dancing?" Sasha didn't know how to answer. She hadn't realized how quickly things had moved. Bells started ringing in her head like fire alarms, and all she could think about was the fire escape. She tried to shift her body away awkwardly, but ended up falling onto his arm. Gabriel was halfway on top of her, and there was nowhere to look but at his face, his eyes twinkling with the stars above. "Oh, what the heck," she thought to herself. "You might as well go with it. This is all Vera's fault." Vera had stopped making noise. Stanley and Patricia were silent. Had they left? Sasha pushed Gabriel aside. "Where's V?" she asked, a sense of panic rising in her. Gabriel was clearly irritated by her paranoia. He tried to calm her down by gently guiding her back to the ground. He was now ready to mount her when they heard a scream. Looking in the direction of the sound, they saw what could have been a scene from a horror movie. Vera's body slumped to the ground beside Stanley and Patricia, who were kneeling in dread before several people in white robes and straw masks. One of them held a knife dripping with blood. Even the white robe was stained. Vera's killer. At this moment, Sasha realized that all the playful screaming and laughter had actually been cries of terror. Gabriel got up from Sasha's body. His priorities suddenly changed. But before he could make a run for it, one of the white-robed figures knocked him down with the swing of a club. Gabriel was back on top of her again, but this time unconscious. The shock of seeing what had happened to Vera had glued Sasha to the sand. She looked at the man who had struck Gabriel. He held a flaming torch in one hand and the club in the other. Her eyes darted around the beach. What she had thought were torches standing on their own were actually people in white robes holding them. Sasha's breath came in short, panicked gasps as the robed figures closed in, their shadows growing longer in the firelight. She knew there was no escape. Gabriel lay on top of her, and the weight of the situation pressed down on her as heavily as his body. The realization hit her like a wave. This was the end. The leader of the group, his face obscured by the straw mask, raised his torch higher. The others followed suit, silently coordinating themselves in a routine that was both familiar and fulfilling to them. Sasha's mind raced, searching for a way out, but every path led to the same grim conclusion. Her heart pounded as she thought of Vera, Stanley, Patricia. All of them had been picked off one by one, and now it was her turn. She looked around, hoping for a miracle, but the beach was deserted. The sun had abandoned her, hiding behind the horizon, leaving her alone in the cold darkness. The sound of the waves, once soothing, now echoed like violent chants that supported the ritual. "Why are you doing this?" Sasha's voice was barely above a whisper, but the leader heard her. He only turned to face her, looking down. Sasha could only see the mask, but she didn't need a facial expression or a word to know what was coming. With a single nod from the leader, one of the robed figures stepped forward, the knife in hand. Sasha tried to back away, but Gabriel's limp body pinned her down. The figure advanced slowly, deliberately, as if savoring the moment. Sasha's world slowed to a crawl. The sounds of the beach, the crackling of the torches, even the rhythmic crashing of the waves seemed to fade away. All that was left was the cold, sharp blade and the cruel inevitability of what was to come. The figure raised the knife high, and Sasha closed her eyes, bracing for the end. She thought of Vera. Vera, oh sweet Vera, her best friend in the whole world. Why did this have to happen to you? All her friends were dead. Why? A single tear slid down her cheek as she prepared to join them. Then in an instant, the blade came down, and with it, darkness.